I want to talk today on a concept, the function of a believer in this world. The function of the believer in this world can be summed up in one word. Our function in this world can be summed up in one word, and that word is influence. Influence. The question is, are you salty? Now, I know in our context, in our culture, saltiness can be a bad thing. It's a negative thing. You know, you're putting salt in my game. When someone talks about being salty, they talk about them being kind of foul. They got that little taste in their mouth. You don't hold hot water too well. You tell secrets. You gossip. But biblically speaking, salt is a different concept. Are you salty? And are you bright? Influence. Are you salty and are you bright? This life was not meant for you and I to be on an island by ourselves. If that was the key, God would have just created you and nobody else, and you would be by yourself, kicking it, chilling by yourself, getting your Tom Hanks on, right? Cast away. But this life was not meant for you to be by yourself. This life was meant for you and I to live among community. You go to Houston, Texas, and when you drive in Houston, Texas, you always know when you're approaching Houston, Texas by this one concept. You start seeing a ton of trees that are skinny bunched up together. Have you noticed that? I mean, think about it. Driving in Houston, there's like a ton of trees. When you get to Houston, it's like, dang. Okay, we're close to Houston. How you know? They go to trees. But that's how you and I are. You take one of those trees and put it by itself, it is no good. Why? Because when the wind comes, that one tree standing so skinny and so tall, the wind hits it and it falls over. But when the trees are coming together like they are, when the wind comes through, the wind breaks its strength and it goes through and nothing falls because all the trees stand together in strength and power. That's what you and I are. We stand together in community. We stand together. We're not to be by ourselves. We're not an island by ourselves. You can just read in Matthew 5, as one young man said, the Beatitudes. You can see in the Beatitudes that the character of those who want to be citizens in the kingdom of God. You see the blessedness of the citizens. We see them described. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed those who suffer. You see the blessedness of us who are part of God's kingdom. And in the final words of the Beatitudes, Jesus implied the attitude the world would often display towards you and I. He describes to you and I what the world does to those who are part of his kingdom. Verse 10 through 12, we see the world would revile you and persecute you. The world would say all kind of things about you, all kind of falsely things about you. The world would persecute you just as they persecuted the prophets before you and I. Thus, the influence of the world upon the kingdom would often be one of persecution. But then he shifts gears and he begins to look at our influence and our reaction, our response to the world system. The world persecutes those a part of the kingdom. The world talks bad about you. The world has the context of saltiness that we have today. The world want to put salt in your game. The world want to see what you do and put salt in your game and give you that one blemish in your record, that one blemish in your reputation. The world wants to persecute you for being a Christian. The world wants to do this. But how do we respond to the world? We don't give tick for tack with the world. We don't lash back out with false words or with even some things that could be true, but we don't react to the world. As my father always says, we respond. Reaction is this: when someone hits you, your reaction hits them back. But a response is when someone hits you, you take a moment to think about what should I do at this particular point. That's what's the difference between reaction and response. And my question is, many of us are reacting, but are many of us responding? Are we responding to our friends? Are we responding to our associates? Are we responding to our teachers? How do we respond to the world?